Hi everybody, Dave here from Amore Style Astrology and Amore Style Tarot. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the planetary influences and how they might be having an effect on you or all of us at this time. The basic idea is that on Saturday, so today is the 16th of August, back on the 10th of August, I think it was the 10th of August, I woke up and the first thought that was in my mind was that we had hit a turning point. There was a transition in the energy that now has turned us on a different path. And then when I picked up my phone, I looked at the news, I looked at the headlines, and immediately saw that they were talking about this political blackmailer that was just, suicided in jail. Whatever that story is, it doesn't really matter because the information is kind of hidden from us. We're simply observers. We don't have all the facts. We get to see what the story is. And so I immediately brought up my astro mapping program. So I'll bring that on the screen right now. So with that, let's see, today's the 16th. I'm going to go back a couple days, go back to the 10th. On the 10th, this is what I saw. In this configuration, nothing really stood out to me. Yes, the sun's in Leo. We've got Venus and Mars there. We've got Juno conjunct it. We've got, Pluto and Saturn in retrograde. We've got Eris and Chiron in retrograde. But there wasn't anything that stood out for that particular moment. And then, as I advanced it a little bit, what happens is, if you notice over in Taurus, that Uranus turns retrograde. So here we are, the 16th. Uranus is standing still at 6 degrees 37 minutes in order for this period of time while we're going through the 8th, 9th, 10th. So it was just turning there. The way my program is designed is it has to change a minute in order to change the color from retrograde to direct. So my timing's off a little bit, but I'm okay with that. So now I see what's going on. So what this meant was that at this moment when I woke up with this intuitive understanding that something had changed, I wanted to go see what it was. And so when we advance this a little bit, notice Jupiter. Jupiter's in Sagittarius. Jupiter turns direct, which is just now turned direct. So both Jupiter and Uranus were changing directions. And so made me wonder, what's going on with that? How long is Uranus going to be retrograde? What is that going to mean to us? So at that point, I thought, well, what happened the last time Uranus went retrograde? And I dug back a little ways and I found out that this was a period of time when we went through the Kavanaugh hearings for the Supreme Court nominations. And during this time, it was a period of time when basically we were presented this show through the media with this trial, this hearing that went on, where evidence couldn't be presented, but he said, she said could be. So basically, people were emotionally drawn in. The rebel in people was brought out. People were fighting mad about this. When there was a period of time during that phase, we had just gone through that, and I sat down with my mom and my dad to talk about what happened during the 60s riots. How did people feel then? And so in that conversation, we got to talk about how everybody was on edge just like that. There was this period of time when people were mad, they were protesting mad. But here in the US, we really don't have those protests. It's been eerily calm via all this bad, I guess it would be bad behavior bad behavior by the elites in the political system and the people that are in charge of the corporations. All that bad behavior is going on still, and people aren't rioting in the streets. And so the conversation went from the fact that we had this Uranus energy going backwards in retrograde, bringing out that rebel, creating that independence and that fight for independence. Yet we need triggers to go with that. We need things like people need to run out of food, or money needs to be blocked for them, or things that directly relate to their everyday behavior needs to come into conflict. And so I brought up the map again, and I'm looking ahead. I want to see, where are we going? Ultimately, all of this, I'm 5 minutes into this, ultimately the goal of what I've been looking for a long time is to be able to understand what's coming our way come January 2020 when the sun is conjunct Pluto and Saturn is conjunct Juno at the same time. I'm going to advance the map to show you that as I talk my way into this. But today, here we are. We're at this point where Mars and Venus and the sun and Juno have come together. And what we've seen at this point, there's been a blackmailer has been in the news, has been the headlines. There's been a bunch of energy associated with that has come up and kind of been hidden back away. But we're going to advance a little bit farther through the chart here. So as I move ahead, we're going to get a period of time when shortly, come the end of August. So notice here, we're at the 23rd of August. As I roll into August, we're going to get the new moon, where we bring the moon and the sun together. Here, we have a conjunction of planets in Virgo. And we've got the sun, which is the political leaders. We've got Mercury there. We've got Venus there. So we've got some diplomacy that's going to be used there. We have communication that's going to come out there. We also have Mars there, which means this is going to be an active spot. We're going to be planting a seed with that new moon. But we also have Juno, which is also associated with this in a slight way. So looking at this, what else do we see? Do we see... So we have a square there with Ceres too. Notice Ceres is over in Sagittarius. So we also have that square with Jupiter at the same time. So we have this point here where at the end of August, there's going to be some investigative energy going into this. And it's going to be investigative upon the leadership. And so to me, here we're at the middle of August. We're going to be going into the end of August. We're going to be going a little bit farther. So I'm going to advance a little bit farther. As the moon moves on, all these planets start to work their way into Europe. And so here we get to where September, we have what's happening in September. So we've got the key point there. Let's go to the moon. We'll go to the next new moon. So the next new moon, we've got Venus, Mercury, the dark Jacobson's dark moon Lilith, the moon and the sun all in Libra. This is all at the time when the information through England should be going out with regards to their Brexit. Is Brexit going to be happening then? The leaders are probably going to be in the news at this time. Of course, we're all probably going to hear about it because that's where the sun's going to be. At the same time, we have Ceres and Jupiter coming together. And so let's move a little bit farther with this. So going in a little bit farther, what's going to be that next day? So here we get a point. Ceres and Jupiter come together at the end of October. And at that end of October, the sun has moved into Scorpio. We have Mercury and Venus in Scorpio at the same time. And at this time, we have another new moon that happens. This is the new moon on October 27th. So Scorpio is being the sign of secrets, the detective, being able to get in there. We have the moon there for a short period of time. But we also have Mercury and Venus conjunct Pallas at the same time. And if you've been following some of my work, last year, Pallas worked its way across Europe at the time of the riots. So the Yellow Vest riots, it was starting to come out. And as Pallas moved away, that information got suppressed to where the riots were still going on, but it wasn't making it into any type of news to make it into the States. And so here we have a situation where we've got this conjunction happening come the end of October. We're going to advance it a little bit farther. And that conjunction for Pallas becomes very tight. Let's move in a little bit farther. The sun, let's look at the point right here where Jupiter now makes it into Capricorn. So this is December 2nd. So we've moved for October. We work our way through November. The sun has moved into Sagittarius. And that Sagittarius leadership energy has now come up against Pallas. We have a perfect conjunction there. Jupiter has just moved into Capricorn. We've got this framework for everything to start to come together for the middle of January in Capricorn. So here, what I've been looking forward to, notice On the other side of the chart, we still have Uranus in retrograde in Taurus. I'm going to go a little bit farther. So here I'm advancing, and right here we get to see this is the location that I've been looking towards for a long time. The full moon is slightly before it. So here, notice this is the January 10th full moon. So here we've got Pluto, we've got Sirius, we've got Saturn, we've got Sun, we've got Mercury, Jupiter, all in Capricorn. We've got that pile up energy. And the thing that we want to be able to recognize here is that now that we're in January 10th there, about mid-January, we want to look back at what has also happened in January when the Sun come up conjunct Pluto in the last couple of years. And so in this chart, what we're going to do is we're going to look back 2 years. So here is January 10th, 2018. So looking back at this particular period of time, I'm going to adjust the chart ever so slightly, bring Mercury up against Saturn, and Venus and the Sun are conjunct really close to Pluto. It's all kind of happening at the same time. We also had Mars against Jupiter at the time. So here, when you look back 2 years, this was a period of time when we have Venus and Sun conjunct and Pluto at the same time. This was a period of time when the Mueller investigation is going on. They're investigating all the bad things that the Trump administration is doing, and there's diplomacy at the same time. So Trump is not really interfering with it. It's happening, it's not really coming out because communication is restricted with Saturn. So this game is going on, but there's diplomacy involved. There's transformation that's trying to happen against the leaders, but it's being very careful about how it comes out. Here, and we also had Mars against Jupiter, so there was big things, there was calls to actions to make that happen. And Jupiter is in Scorpio, so we're looking for details. We want to find those secrets. We're going to advance 1 year. So now looking at January 10th, 2019. So here I'll adjust that ever so slightly. So now in this particular case, so this was last January. Last January is when we had the government shutdown. So if you remember then, this was a period of time when, again, we have the leadership up against transformation, and we have Mercury and Saturn, which creates that restriction. So we have a mirror of what happened the previous year. The only difference is that there was no diplomacy. We took out Venus, took it out of the equation, and now there was no compromises. Nobody was willing to come to the table. We saw time and time again where they just rejected things. This was probably at the time of working up towards the State of the Union when Pelosi locked Trump out. These were once in a lifetime things that were happening politically that you have to go back 100 years. You have to go back a long time to find activity that was so out of bounds being brought into what we got to see on a daily basis. And so here, notice Pluto, Sun, Saturn, Mercury. Jupiter has advanced 1 year into Sagittarius. Now we're going to take this again up to the point where we want to be now. We want to look into where are we going to be in January. Well, Jupiter has moved into Capricorn now. And so it's going to amplify this earthy, got to get things done. We're driving towards success energy. But we have Saturn is now conjunct Pluto perfectly. The Sun's there, Mercury's there, and we bring in Sirius. Venus has moved out. So like we saw last year when there was no diplomacy, there's still going to be no diplomacy as we come into this next January. And it's going to be amplified a little bit with the fact that Jupiter is in the same side. So we're very lopsided here. This is a situation where the leaders are going to be talked about. There's going to be restrictions on everything that's happening. They're going to try to lock this down. They're going to go out of their way to suppress the information as much as they can. But what we have here at the same time that was slightly different than before is that we have Uranus leading all the way up to this. All this time that I've been talking about, it's been retrograde. And if you notice here on the chart, as I advance a few days, Uranus is now turning direct. So now we've had all this energy, all this rebellious energy that's been building up that's going to be unleashed at this time. So as it starts to move forward, we're going to be able to start to make progress on these as we get waning through this particular configuration. So looking at this, the other thing that's standing out to me in all this is the feminine energy that's associated with it. So for instance, Ceres is there. We have Vesta and we have Juno that are square. So Juno and Vesta are square in this particular situation. So these are going to bring out abuse situations. They're going to bring out family situations that are morally unacceptable. It's going to the headlines of today, where we talk about, where the mainstream media is talking about a known pedophile, chances are the people are going to start to rebel to this, because Uranus is retrograde. We're leading up to this point here where they're still going to try to suppress this information, but it's going to start to work its way out. And so to me, as a kind of summation before I finish, I was looking for that trigger of what it was that was going to define how things were going to move forward. And what I'm seeing here is that do I see financial stuff? It doesn't really stand out to me very strong about it, but the financial stuff can be the trigger for writing. I see it as the rebel, the writer wants to come out. And I see restrictions through leadership. So it could be that in order to be successful come January, the political people are going to be communicating out that there are restrictions on things, and we're going to be going through a transformation. They're going to be laying the groundwork for transformations to happen. And Jupiter, being the sign of abundance, is tied in with this. At the same time, laws and restrictions and justice system and all the aspects of Saturn that are there too are at the heart of this. Now, we work our way up to this. This is the waxing aspect of this conjunction. How do we move out of that? I'm going to scroll through this and just pick out what I see moving forward. So here, as it starts to break apart, what do we see? We see a new moon come the end of January. The end of January, this energy's falling apart. Uranus has gone direct, and I'll keep going a little bit farther. So here we have a point where right about here, we now have Mars has worked its way into Capricorn. So come Valentine's Day, shortly thereafter, the sun has moved through Aquarius, and we have Saturn, Jupiter. We have this Jupiter coming into a tighter conjunction. We have Pallas coming in with it. Pallas is the feminine energy of the warrior. It is the one that's going to stand up for what is just. We have Jupiter there, which is, Pallas is the daughter of Jupiter. So we have Jupiter bringing in good luck, bringing in aspects that should amplify the situation. And let's go a little bit farther with that. So now, what do we see here? We have Mars. We have Saturn, we have Pallas, we have Jupiter, we have Pluto, all conjunct at the end of March. So, and we see the sun has moved into Aries. We see that we just had a new moon in Aries. I'll back up a few hours. So here is the moon, and what's it on top of? The wounded healer. So here we're unrolling from this, but we have another conjunction that's happening at the same time. So come March, what do we see in March? March is an area where this energy that's been building has started to fall apart, and now is coming together to where, to me, the leaders have moved on. The leaders are going over into Aries. The leaders are wounded. The leaders are now conjunct the wounded healer. The new moon starts a new phase here. We have Mars standing up for us in this conjunction in Capricorn. So this is a grounded earthy sign where the energy is we know how to use our resources to get our results. That's where we're at here. Let's move a little bit farther with this. So now, moving out days at a time, we get to where we now have this same conjunction that has been there. Come the end of May, all these planets have now turned retrograde. We have Jupiter, we have Pluto, we have Saturn, we have Mars has moved on, but we have Pallas. All this collection goes into retrograde as we're making the next cycle. So now we're in June. What should we expect come June? Well, to me, these issues aren't going away. we have issues that are going to be playing out into June of next year. This retrograde, here we have triggers that are going to occur. Here is another situation right here in Cancer where the Sun and Mercury are directly conjunct Vesta right over the east coast of the United States while we have this retrograde issue. Vesta is that feminine, pure aspect of that, the chastity. It is the nurturing. It is the seeds. We're in the sign of Cancer here come July. These issues are not going away. We're still fighting for those. There's still things that are going to be happening come that point. I'm advancing again. So now, we're moving through September. Everything's still retrograde. Come the end of September, where do we get to here? We have all those planets turn direct in Capricorn. And where do we get to? So here, come November, we have a fairly tight, the middle of November, we have another very tight configuration of these same planets. The Sun is up against Juno. We have, in this in Scorpio, Uranus has gone retrograde again. So here we have, it's as if even a year from now, we're going to be coming back to those same themes. So going a little bit farther, now we start to get moving away from Pluto. What happens here come next January? So next January, the Sun's going to move through that and work its way, all these planets that we're up against Pluto for that transformation. Here's a point where they pretty much all move into Aquarius. We have Mars against Uranus. We have all these planets grouped in Aquarius. And come February 2nd, they've pretty much moved on from Pluto. To me, this is where we're going to start seeing the emotional detachment. Here we now have all that energy into the water bearer. We have the one who is going to think with their mind about how we can move forward, where we can go. It would be removing the emotion from it to be able to make forward progress. So anyway, that is a lot for this particular video, way more than I wanted to put in there. But the key thing that I wanted to point out was these clustering of planets. If we go back, I'm going to go back 1 year. So here we are in mid-January. So at this point, the thing that I would point out for you being someone that's going to witness this, you're going to be able to see what's going on here. We have a huge amount of energy in are expressing itself through the sign of Capricorn. This energy in Capricorn needs to be balanced with that nurturing sign of Cancer. So here basically that in order for you to be able to get through this, to be able to balance this energy, you're going to have to consciously do the traits of Cancer. You're going to have to consciously be nurturing. You're going to have to consciously focus your energy on how you nurture, how you protect your emotions, how you balance that. So you don't fall into building walls, but you use the walls for your defense. So rather than getting drawn into that manifesting Capricorn energy, you're going to want to balance that in your own life so that you can bring balance to how you see the situation and understand that we will be moving through this. Anyway, I'm done talking now. I'm going to move on. I'm glad you came here. I'm surprised you listened to the end. Thank you. Feel free to subscribe. Send me an email. Send me a notification. If you want any details or clarification on this, let me know. Anyway, have a great day.